The most vulnerable people in our society are kids. And kids that are victimized deserve to be treated in the best way possible, because the horrific things that happen to them can change their entire life. But if it's dealt with properly in the early instances, you can do things that help mitigate the trauma associated with being victimized as a child.
For Tom and I, getting involved in bringing a CAC here to Calgary really did begin with our venture into Phoenix. We were chairing the sister cities at that time. Calgary and Phoenix were sister cities. And I had the good fortune of touring the Child Help Center there, which was, for me, game changer. I really had not had the conversation about child abuse. Then Chief Hansen gave Tom a call and started the conversation again about what could a CAC look like in Calgary.
Shortly after returning to Calgary as the chief in 2007, we started right from the beginning with Alberta Health Services, the police, Child and Family Services, and Lloyd Robertson being willing to put a Crown prosecutor in here. No other child advocacy center had a Crown prosecutor in the center. And then, of course, involving even both school boards, because it's their kids that are here. And they pointed that out. So having that group as the key partners to start with, to get the doors open. And then we started looking into it, and Sheldon Kennedy gave me a call. And we had a meeting, and it turned out he was really interested in working with the police and others to see about if we could move this forward.
My very first meeting as chief superintendent of Calgary Catholic School District, that was in 2012. I had a meeting scheduled with Tom and Deborah Morrow, and they were very persuasive in ensuring that Calgary Catholic School District and I were part of the building of this center and moving forward.
Well, I think Children's Services had a really big role in the beginning. We partnered heavily with the police. I remember in the early days, we actually put some of our social workers over to West Winds to start to work together with police, to start to learn how do we do that differently. But sometimes we had barriers around sharing of information. We had barriers about the speed of information sharing. And by doing that, sometimes we were losing, information in the cracks that would have been much better for these kids, right? If we had been working together more cohesively.
If you think about what happened before the Child Advocacy Center was here, a child who reported abuse to, say, a teacher at school would have to go and see a police officer at a police station, potentially a doctor at a hospital or a doctor's office. If Child and Family Services was involved, there may be other people at a different physical location. If charges were laid, they would have to go to the Crown Prosecutor's office to prepare for trial and then to the courthouse to testify.
Bringing teams together was one of our biggest challenges. And even our individual teams from all the community perspectives were a little bit doubtful as to how we were going to all work together versus all being separate. And we had worked separately for a very long time.
Getting that many partners to the table at a time when privacy legislation was paramount, and overcoming that with like-minded people sitting at the table and saying, we're going to make this happen, and having the support of the bosses at the very top who also said, we need this to happen because it's in the best interest of this entire community. Then it happened. That's where the magic happened.
Some of the founding board members, good friends of mine, we were in a book club actually. Wayne McNeil and Brian Evans, who were founding members, brought Sheldon to see me, invited me out for lunch, didn't know what it was about. And they said, we've got this concept of a child advocacy center. This is what it's all about. And although, by the way, we don't have any money and we need somebody to lead our fundraising initiative, will you do it? When I learned a little bit more about what it was all about, it was a very easy, yes, I'm in.
We started the project without having all the money raised, and myself and John Dillard said, we'll just backstop it. We know we can raise the money, so let's start the project. That was a challenge because we couldn't raise the money fast enough because it's unusual to have the 4 agencies agree.
Thankfully, we got 3 organizations and one very important philanthropist in the city to come on. We got Canadian Natural Resources, Synovus, Meg Energy, and Al Market. And I was the CEO of ARC Resources at the time, and we made $1 million commitment on the spot.
From an Alberta Health Services perspective, the work of the Luna Center and the child advocacy that it provides is absolutely incredible in terms of how it's changed in all aspects of care, how we can talk together as a team, and how we can intervene much earlier for children to get that therapy to them, to their families, so that they can heal and get well in a much more expeditious fashion than ever before. The public assumes that maybe we speak to each other regularly, but there's a lot of silos that occur with public agencies. And now we can say with confidence how well we communicate with each other, that we have solid relationships, we know one another, and we have one goal in mind. All of our teams would have a great deal of difficulty of thinking of separating and working in the old way that we did, because they see the change that has happened for children. They see how they can talk to each other far more easily than they ever could before. And we also know that we can provide improved, quicker healing for that child that will have long-lasting effects as they go forward in their life.
You have to understand that this is all about collaboration. Everyone's talking to everybody. You have to be open. You have to be honest. Sometimes you may want to have a little skin in the game as well, that you may want to support something in the Advocacy Center like an educational liaison, making sure that there is that person that can talk to the schools and back and forth. School districts are a microcosm of society, and you get into a school itself, you have all the social interactions with kids, kids with adults, and we are, if we're doing our job well, we're creating an environment that's very trusting and very safe for kids. And in those kinds of environments, kids often open up. And so it's really important for children to have a safe place to talk to people that sometimes they might not even tell their family.
Everybody who comes into contact with a child when they're abused under one roof, communicating with one another, has meant that we're much better situated to serve children and their families. And so to me, that is a profound difference.
If we didn't have this center, we would still be light years behind in how we deliver services to the children. That's what this center does, and that's what my hope is for the future, is that we can continue to do that and keep elevating it to the point where we're doing the best we can for everybody involved.
At the end of my 5 years when I was here, I had the opportunity to evaluate to see where had we come from the days when we didn't have a center to 5 years later at that particular milestone. And I literally had goosebumps because we had people that were sharing information, they were creating case management plans, and they were doing this within minutes and hours and days that had taken us weeks and months to do before. And it was like, this was the right thing to do. This was the right thing to do for kids, right? That we had made a difference and that we were making a difference on these outcomes for kids. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the beautiful dogs. I had the opportunity to actually get to go to Edmonton and bring in Webster and Axel. Phenomenal. I always saw them as part of the staff too, so I include them as a staff. Actually, children tell their story to the dogs and they feel safe.
You can imagine a child coming into a building with people they haven't met, telling stories that they've been afraid to tell. The calming presence of a dog to take their mind off it, just to sit with and set them at ease, to allow the children to feel more comfortable in telling their story. The therapy dogs are a huge, huge part of that.
I mean, Sheldon Kennedy came in with an idea, with a vision for his ability to create that community awareness, to say, we need to talk about child abuse. Our children are being hurt. We need to open this up to the community. It's not a dark secret anymore. That's why the center is very bright and colorful. This wasn't about despair. This was about hope. This was about we could make a difference. And we want to create something special that when those kids walk onto this floor, they know they're going to be okay.
Everybody could identify with what Sheldon Kennedy was saying because he was speaking from the heart. We really lucked out to have a partner like Sheldon Kennedy stepping up and saying, we want to work with you organizations so that we can give young people what it is that they deserve when they've been victimized. And his contribution as being the voice of the center, a number of times he spoke about this and elevated this to a point where everybody in the community is going, we got to do better for those kids.
I know for Calgary Catholic and other jurisdictions around this province, they benefited greatly by learning from the Child Advocacy Centers through videos, through lectures, through all kinds of different ways, through visits from the center, to really understand how to recognize, how to respond, and how to report child abuse. So this is absolutely essential as the educational part.
The community was ready to listen and to really support the work that was being done. Everybody believed, everybody could see the vision, everybody knew that better could be done. And the people that are working in this building also have every right to be taken care of as best we can, because this is hard work. And I think this center is an example of that, shining example. I think it's one of the best in the country.
So the wish is that this can just get better and better. The outcomes are so much better than they would have otherwise been, but the problem still exists. So how do you start working at the problem so that it's not all reactive?
I'm hopeful that this is just the beginning, and that Luna is a place that has done so many things so very, very well, and that people learn from Luna and continue the good work that's going on and make life better for kids.
What I think this showed and shows to this day is people believed, and they could see what a difference this would make. And I think when you dream big and when you believe and you just don't see the obstacles.
There's so much now that is focused on helping kids who have been victimized. Where I'd like to see it go is if there were centers like this, regional centers in Alberta and regional centers in every province, so that every kid in this country could rely on that the treatment is consistent no matter where it happens.
You know, when I think about the Luna Center, I'm proud to be a board member. I'm proud to be involved. I'm very proud to have participated in the center to develop a courtroom here at the Luna Center where children can testify here rather than having to go to the courthouse. Just being associated with a center that has made such a difference to the community is something I take great pride in.
So my message to the center is to continue to do the good work, continue to be the center of excellence, continue to care so much about those vulnerable children and youth that we serve, that you continue to do your work. And to the community, continue to support it, because it's critical. We are the champions for these children and youth who do not have a voice. And I think it's our obligation and it's our duty to continue to keep that voice loud and strong. And I just want to say congratulations. It was an honor to have been involved. It was an honor to have been involved